Welcome to the Select Board meeting. Today is Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. This hearing of the Ayer Select Board will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with a particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom and Channel 8. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom, meeting ID number 978-772-8220, or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100, prior to the meeting. If I could ask everybody to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, are there any amendments to tonight's agenda?
I have none.
Okay.
All right, make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Seconded? All those in favor?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. The agenda has been approved. Any announcements for tonight? Okay. All right. Anyone here for public input? Okay. All right then. Well, Chief Brian Gill from the Ayer Police Department would please come on down.
Good evening, everybody. I know we have a busy meeting tonight, so I'll keep this really quick, but I thought everybody would like to meet the newest member of the Ayer Police Department tonight. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up the newest member.
Please do.
I'd like to bring up Officer Mike Niccolo, who's partnered with new member K9 Maverick, our new comfort dog. So, just a little bit real quick, he's partnered with Mike Niccolo, who's our school resource officer up in the Ayer campus of the Ayer Shirley Regional School District. And he is a 2-year-old English pocket beagle. And he he was born, he just had his second birthday a couple weeks ago. He was born on January 14th, 2024. And all of his siblings were slated to be service dogs in all the different fields. He started his official training in September with a group called Elite Dog Training, and it's approximately 24 training hours, which is about 9 months of full training. And in a couple weeks, Mike, he's going to be doing his practice test.
Yes.
And then he'll be going for his full test up at the Ayer High School, right?
Yes, correct.
And then he will be an official certified comfort dog. So he started as a home pet, and Mike came to us with the idea of he'd like to start looking at if we could bring on a comfort dog program for the Ayer Police Department. It's in his travels and in his network, he's found that a lot of the school resources in our area, school resource officers, had comfort dogs, and they were a huge success in the school resource program and just making the connection with the kids up there. And I'll let Mike talk a little bit more about that. But as you can see, Maverick is small. He's not a puppy. He's 2 years old. He comes in at about 20 pounds.
Yep.
But what he makes up for in height, he has a huge personality. And he's often seen walking around the halls of the Ayer Police Department, owning the place.
Good dog.
He'll sit on any chair, jump, and see anybody there. And I think the same is up at the school. I'm going to let Mike tell a little bit about the school and how some of the little impacts that he's had up at the schools.
Yeah, so he is with me every day. He walks with me around the halls. It used to be Officer Niccolo, how's it going? Now it's Maverick. I'm not there. We dress him up for Halloween. He goes to all the classes I teach. And it just bridges the gap. A lot of kids that haven't talked to me, I've been there for 4 years, all of a sudden now come up and talk to me. We have conversations. It's a way that gets them to loosen up with me. We've used him a few times already at the school with kids in crisis, and it was a great success.
Yep, and he really does. He has a calming behavior, and we find that with the comfort dog programs that they bring, you know, just a different kind of level of service that we can provide, and so we're very excited, and we're just so happy to finally be able to introduce Maverick and all he's going to be doing for the town and the school, right, buddy?
And you said he's a pocket beagle?
Yes, he's a pocket beagle.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
never seen a pocket beagle before. I had a beagle once years ago. Wonderful dogs.
Yeah, so had a pocket beagle previous. He was 35 pounds, and that's what we thought we were going to get. But 20 pounds is fine with me. He's small enough where I can help with disabled kids. I can hold him, or he can go in their laps. I can pick him up when a bunch of elementary school kids get so excited and they circle him. I just pick him up, and they all can pat him, and we can keep him calm that way. But yeah.
Any questions about Maverick or the program in general?
I don't know. Does Maverick want to say any words?
No?
Did you have anything?
My only comment is my girls are up at the high school and they know Maverick very well. When I mentioned Maverick was going to be at this meeting, they were all excited. So he's very well known.
Yes, he's a staple now in the schools.
Well, welcome, Maverick. You're adorable. Well, you can come to our meetings anytime.
Well, thank you, and thank you for. I think we have.
Yes, Pauline.
Very quickly, very thankful, Chief Gill, for bringing this forward. You know I've been advocating this for years, and I'm so happy that we finally have a canine pup, even just at the high school, to help the kids. Because whatever we do for the children is going to make the community better. So congratulations, and thank you so very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Pauline.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you again. I know. It's all downhill from here now. That was the highlight of the meeting, people. All right. So at this time, I would like to invite the Finance Committee to come to the table to join us for a joint session. Because we can get a little more when we bring up the school too. So
Oh, that's right.
As the youngest member, I shall take the armchair.
that is the role, even at the dinner table, the youngest or the smallest, you know. All right, I'll allow you to call your committee to order.
Good evening, my name is Kurt Preskowski, I'm chairman of the Finance Committee. I'd like to call the Finance Committee to order for the presentation on the Ayer Shirley Regional School District budget.
Okay, all right. And at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Adam Renda, the Superintendent of Schools, to present the FY27 Ayer Shirley Regional School District budget.
Thank you.
Hi.
Assistant Superintendent Charlie Clear is going to join me. That's
Okay, no problem.
Sir? Oh, you can, that's fine. No, you're good. You're going to be here long. All right. Thank you.
going to be a moving target.
All right.
Dr. Renda, do you want to use your laptop or just the slides you sent?
So the slides are fine. I can
Okay.
see better from here.
Got it, yeah, no problem.
Thank you for having us tonight. We're happy to
Hold on. Oh, never mind. Go ahead. Sorry.
to be here to present the preliminary budget. I want to stress that this is preliminary to the Select Board and the Finance Committee tonight. I did want to preface this with William Plunkett, our finance director, was not able to make it tonight. He had a family emergency that pulled him away. I believe Mr. Clear and I should be able to answer most, if not all, of your questions, but there may be some questions that we will want to bring back to Mr. Plunkett for clarification, and we will get you to those answers as soon as possible.
Well, I hope whatever the emergency is, everything turns out okay.
So we are here tonight to introduce the preliminary school budget, and it's been a very difficult budgeting season. But in order to do this is a little bit differently than what we've done before. We want to explain kind of what goes into the required local contribution, some of our process of what we've typically done to help bring down the assessments for the towns, highlight the challenges that we're facing more this year, but have been facing actually really the last several years, and then discuss our next steps to hopefully make this a budget that we can present and that will be palatable to both towns. So this is the understanding of the required local contribution. The required local contribution for Ayer this year is $11,283,655. This is a calculation that the state comes up with each year. It is required under the Chapter 70 laws, and this is the calculation for Ayer with some adjustments based on local conditions. Essentially, this is the amount that the state says you have to pay. This is the non-negotiable. It's based on what the state says is the town's ability to pay. Again, that is the state. That is not the school district making that determination. It uses factors like property value, income levels, and student needs. So it is the required local contribution plus state aid that equals net school spending, and that is the foundation for the school budgets and the local tax decisions. So some of our cost factors, what goes into this is the operating expense profile for the schools. So this is what we need to run the schools. It includes teaching, support services, and building operations. Personnel and compensation is by far the biggest bucket. There's a difference there between the compensation and teaching. So the teaching under the operating expenses, like the number of positions that we need, and we can have the same position for a teacher that are paid at very different rates based on collective bargaining. The next would be the student-centered services domains. This includes student support such as special education, transportation, utilities, and enrichment programs. And then there is the pre-adjustment and post-adjustment benchmark. So these are the numbers that show the initial cost before any savings or adjustments are applied. We often have a meeting with the town managers and we say, hey, this is the number that we need for level funded, to be level funded, but then we try to work with the towns to keep that number in range of what the towns can afford. And we have done that for several years. So some of the variables that are making this more difficult this year is higher transportation costs. Fuel prices and longer bus routes have increased busing expenses, especially for our special education out-of-district students. We're spending around $70,000 a month to transport students who are in out-of-district placements to their schools, and that is just one part of our transportation costs. We have much higher insurance costs. Our insurance was increased 12% last year. This year, we just received the range from Maya. We're budgeting for a 14.4%. That is the high end. That could possibly go down. And believe it or not, we are relieved at the 14.4%. We originally were budgeting for a 20 to a 25% increase in insurance. Our utility costs have increased at an unbelievable rate, electricity and water. Electricity, though, being much higher. Currently, the district spends around, on average, $65,000 a month for electricity. All of these increases come with less Chapter 70 aid. The state is providing less aid, and they are saying that the towns should be able to cover the cost of that locally. Again, this is messaging from the state, not the district. The other problem is some of what we have used in the past to offset the costs and offset the assessment are one-time funds and aren't always available. And as you'll see in a few slides, how we've used those in the past and why they will have less of an impact this year. You usually see this slide. It's usually the very last slide. Bill likes to close with this. It tells you, as of right now, what the assessment will be. This is a preliminary number. I want to stress that again. But before we did some of our preliminary work, when we met with Robert last week, we told him we need 17% to be level funded. I think after we checked his pulse and made sure he didn't have a heart attack.
Remember, we don't have a hospital anymore.
We talked right. We talked about how we can get that down. So one of the ways one of the things we typically do to help bring down that assessment is we use circuit breaker money from the state to help bring that down. Circuit breaker is funding that we get. It's a reimbursement from the state for special education costs. We cannot necessarily rely on, it's not the same number every year. It's not going to be funded the same every year. So it's risky. It's worked, but it's risky to do. These are some of the other levers that we use to help offset the assessment to the towns. There are circuit breaker funds, excess and deficiency. I think you'll remember, I believe it was 2 years ago, we used $350,000 to help bring down that assessment for the towns. We also had to use $600,000 of excess and deficiency funds to overcome a shortfall from last year's budget. We had migrant shelter funding last year. If you remember, there was a migrant shelter in Ayer. We did receive some funding from the state for that. All of that funding, or actually not all of it, 90% of that funding was used to address a shortfall from last year's budget. We have many competitive grants. We've brought in over $2 million in the last 3 years in competitive grants that supplements the general fund, and we often use building rental revenue. We can rent the field, which is rented out pretty much as often as possible, auditoriums and gymnasiums throughout the district. And we can use all of this revenue or grants to help offset the costs of the towns, which has worked, I believe, rather successfully the past 5 years and beyond. But there is a problem. So though we have been able to lower the assessment, and the strategy has helped reduce the tax burden for the towns and save teachers and services, they're one-time funds and they're not guaranteed. So our E&D has gone from about 1.5. We're about to get recertified. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say that number before. It's still fairly healthy. It's under $1 million. It's going to be under $1 million. These funds aren't guaranteed. There is no more shelter. There is no more shelter money. We're continuing to try to apply and receive competitive grants. Quite honestly, I don't know our capacity to manage many more grants. We are bringing in many grants, and there's a lot of grant management and the stipulations on those grants. So we're at the point now, if we continue, we're going to have grants competing with each other, which means we're not going to receive those grants. And then the costs, which we had gone over before, have increased so dramatically that the use of these one-time funds really aren't going to address the shortfall that we're seeing. So we are trying to do some other things to try to bring in some money and bring these assessments down for the towns. We have contacted our special education transportation to see if there's any type of discounts or cost savings they can give us. To their credit, they're looking at that. They're looking at to see if they can optimize riding, put more kids on more than one van. We are also considering, and we're going to try to contract directly with some parents. So we are able now, instead of contracting with a van company, if a parent wants to drive their own child to an out-of-district placement, or a grandparent, we can contract directly with them. I'll give you an example. We have one out-of-district placement where we're spending $500 a day to transport the student to school. That is $2,500 a week. There may be a parent or a grandparent that would do that for $1,250. That is a significant savings over 10 months of the school year. If we can get multiple families to do this, we could save possibly a couple $100,000. We are considering to do that. We have not yet secured that for next year, but we're trying. We're in talks with 3 different solar companies to try to reduce the amount for our utilities electricity. We're considering purchasing, we're considering leasing, but at $65,000 a month, if we can get anywhere from 20 to 40% discount, depending on the company that you're talking to, there's lots of different promises there, that could be significant savings. One thing that we're absolutely doing is that we're going to start an 18 to 22-year-old program for students who are in special education, who are seniors, but continue to need services until the age of 22. This is something that we have now, but what we do right now is all of those students go to an out-of-district placements, typically to Keystone. Many of them stay right at the high school in that Keystone program. That's at a cost of $80,000 per student. By starting our own program, it costs a little bit money for additional support staff, but we can save, next year there's a possibility of saving $160,000. So that is absolutely happening. We're hoping to get something done with solar, and we're hoping to either work with our special education transportation provider or contract individually with parents to save some money there. All three of these added up could be somewhere between $200,000 and $500,000. There's more good news. There is uncertainty about federal funding. We do not know what is happening with our entitlement grants, Title I, II, III, IV, IDEA, and 240. We believe they will be funded to some degree. To what degree they will be funded, we don't know. How we will receive those funds, we're not sure yet. There's been no guidance out of the federal government. We don't know if there will be a Department of Education by the time school starts next year, and it makes it incredibly difficult to plan. Anything to add to that? Okay. So we understand that an 11.9% assessment is the largest assessment, at least since I've been here. I believe it's the largest assessment since the region has been formed. We understand that there is a possibility that cuts will happen. We are going to continue working on some cost-saving efforts, including the three that I mentioned, but also group purchasing and combining services with other districts when possible. I guess the good news is we're not in this kind of predicament alone. This is going to be a common theme at Select Board and FinCon presentations throughout the state. One thing we do want to reassure everyone of is if we do have to make cuts or reductions, we will focus on preserving teaching and learning, our core programs, and required student services first. Before I move on and go on to the typical kind of budget presentation where we introduce the cherry sheets and some of the numbers, any questions on what I just presented? Or would you rather hold questions?
Well, if somebody has a question, I think we'll hold till the end.
I like that.
Okay, so what you're looking at here on this slide is the preliminary fiscal year 27 cherry sheets. What you'll see is that our increase in Chapter 70 is about $127,000 from the prior year. Our charter reimbursement is down about $20,000. Regional transportation is up about $14,000. That's essentially a cut for us with such a limited increase. School choice is down about $35,000, which brings our total estimated receipts to $10,413,443. And for our estimated charges, our school choice sending tuition is up about $80,000, and our charter school sending tuition is down about $6,000. So our total estimated charges are $1,745,127. So our net receipts for Chapter 70 funding is $668,316. Next is our fiscal year budget drivers and projections. We just saw the Chapter 70, an increase of $127,000. Our transportation reimbursement is down $95,000. Our charter reimbursement, as we just said, is down $20,000. Some good news, our Medicaid is up $52,000, and our depository interest is up $29,000, and local receipts is up $300,000. What you'll see next is the budget drivers. Health insurance at 14.4. This could go down. Is going to be $677,000. Regular transportation is only going up $37,000. This is because we are in the last year of the contract and this is fixed. We are going out to bid next year, and we are expecting a rather large increase in that cost next fiscal year. Charter tuition out is up almost $47,000. Our out-of-district collaborative costs, this is we're very happy with this. It's only up $3,500. And our choice out is up $72,000. Middlesex retirement $38,000. And our transportation, this looks like it's down to $532,000, but that is because we have applied $500,000 of our circuit breaker there to help bring down the assessment. So the contract salary increases for all staff is at $993,136, which brings the total impact of the general fund to $743,076. What you see below that is some of the revenue. You see we're going to receive about $8,000 less in school choice, but that will still be $541,944. And our circuit breaker, this is a very healthy circuit breaker for this year, 1.4 million. 500 of that we have already applied to special ed transportation. This is the fiscal year 27 foundation enrollment. So you'll notice Ayer is down 88 students this fiscal year. 30 of those students were in the migrant shelter. So they have moved on to other districts with their move. And then the other, really, there's some, students move away, but really what you're seeing with the other 50 students or so is a larger graduating class of Ayer students and a smaller kindergarten class than typical. And then, of course, we always have kids moving in and out. So that's really where we're seeing the difference in 88 students. Conversely, Shirley is actually up 23 students, and this is how the change for that. We are a minimum aid district, so we are receiving $75 additional per student for Chapter 70. So that breaks it down. The change for Ayer is $647,951. And this is the Chapter 70 summary. The fiscal year 26, Chapter 70 was $8,993,333, with the minimum aid of $75. That could go up. The governor started last year's budget at minimum aid of $75. Ultimately, it turned into $150. We're hoping that happens. If that does happen, that 127 will double. So it will be just over $250,000. We're hoping that happens. We won't know until the state's budget is finalized. So you take the prior year's aid, the $75 per pupil. When you add that together, that gives us the $9,120,383 for our Chapter 70 funds. What you're looking at here is the Chapter 70 determination of the town total required contribution for Ayer. We're going to focus on some very specific numbers here. You're going to look at line 10, line 13, 14, 15, and then 21, 22, and 23, and we'll go through that. So line 10 is $12,909,011. That's the amount of money that the state believes Ayer should be able to pay and what it would take for Ayer Shirley Regional School District to run the school. Line 13 at $11,440,441 is the amount that the town is required to pay. That is a non-negotiable number. The state takes line 13, that $11 million, and they multiply that by the Department of Revenue growth factor, which is 6.71%, and that gets the preliminary contribution, which is $12,208,095. If you take line 15, the $12,208,000, and subtract line 10 from it, you are left with a shortfall, which is line 21, of $700,916. That is 4.48%, which is under 7.5%, which is good, because Ayer is only being charged a 1% increment towards that target, and that target is line 10. So that is an additional $114,404. If you remember last year, it was a 2% increment that Ayer was charged towards that target. So that it's good we're getting closer to that target. But when you take all of these, when you add that together, is where you get the required local contribution for Ayer of $12,322,499. Is clear? Leave anything on that?
No, you're good.
Okay. What you're looking at here is the apportionment of the local required local contribution between Ayer Shirley Regional and Neshoba Tech. So that $12,322,499 is split between Neshoba Tech and Ayer Shirley Regional School District, and it's based on the percentage of students that go to each school. Ayer Shirley Regional School District has 91.57% of the students going to our school district. So we receive 91.5% of those funds, which is $11,283,655. Neshoba Tech has 8.43%, which is $1,038,844. You add those two together, it's your total required local contribution. Okay, this slide actually shouldn't be in the presentation as of yet. There are some mistakes in it. We meant to take it out, so I apologize for that. What you'll notice for the mistake is if you look under the assessment towards the bottom, it's in teal. It says the change from fiscal year 26 is 3.358. It's actually 3.258. And then we needed to make some changes with the health insurance at the 14.4. I know we have that note in there, but we haven't made that change yet. So we're going to update this chart and get this to Robert to get this out to you updated and correct. So my apologies for that. That shouldn't have been included. But we're back on this page, and this is the page that is telling the towns what they're going to be paying. We do understand that this is a large assessment. The required local contribution for Ayer is $11,283,655. The operating assessment, which is part of the original agreement, right now the apportionment is 57.45% for Ayer and 42.55% for Shirley. That's an additional $3,807,261. Then you include transportation in that at $960,449. That brings the total to $16,051,365. So you'll see on the next line, if you take fiscal year 26 with the increase of 1.9, that's a 13.8% assessment. Then we have to have the excluded debt from the Fields project, which is $1,080,339 for a total operating assessment and debt of $17,131,705, or 11.9% assessment rate. We're happy to take any questions. And again, I want to stress again, this is preliminary. We're going to do our best to get this down. But the reality is part of the reason this assessment is so high is the work that we have done in the past years to keep the assessment down. Not tricks, but the ways that we have been able to do that in the past just simply aren't working the same way because of the cost increase that we're seeing in all of our utilities and insurance and transportation, as well as other costs.
Yeah, a couple questions. So you had mentioned the drop in enrollment being the migrant shelter was a big driver of that. I see, Ayer dropped 88 students, which 30 was attributed to, but the town grew about 2.2% over that time. So is this a trend, do you think, that we're going to be dropping in students? Is that something? I'm not asking you to predict the future, but we're looking at this year, and I'm also thinking down the road. As you're looking at these younger classes, the kindergarten classes and such, do you have a feel?
I was surprised to see that. We've been rising since COVID. There's been some dips, but it's been pretty steady. We've been somewhere between 650 and 1750 for the past 5 years, and I believe we're right around 1700 right now. So it's too early to say that it's a trend. I was surprised to see that we were down 88. When you factor in the 30 students that we lost because of the migrant shelter, it's more palatable. We're down about 25 total between the two towns, which happens from year to year. But it's something that we're looking at. I don't think so. We're getting more requests for school choice in, and that is something else we're going to look at. We have set our caps pretty low for a few reasons for that. We had noticed in the past that educating students through school choice in costs a lot more than the money that we receive. So we receive about $5,000 from the state. So the juice hasn't been worth the squeeze, so to speak. We're going to re-examine that for a multitude of reasons. One is we could use it, right? I mean, it's tight. But the benefits of that is we've been able to keep class sizes small for Ayer, the towns of Ayer and Shirley. So we're going to have to, if we can increase class sizes slightly to get some revenue in and have less cuts, that's something that we obviously need to do. So we will be re-examining that. Ultimately, school committee will set those numbers. We will give them a recommendation. But right now, for K-1, we're at, we cap at 20. That doesn't mean we can't have more than 20 kids in a classroom. That means if we have 20 kids in a classroom, school choice is closed for that grade level. Okay. If we have the kids who live in Ayer and Shirley and they make that class size 24, that's fine. But if we get to 20 in K-1, we close school choice. For the rest of elementary, it's 22, and I believe for all of middle school, it's 25, and then we've never had school choice open in 10, 11, and 12. We only open it for freshman year for many reasons. We're going to re-examine that, but I believe our cap at the high school is also 25.
The split between Ayer and Shirley, the 57.45 and the 42.55, is that a contract, or does that slide?
So it's
each
a
year?
5-year average of admission, of student enrollment. So that will change. You won't see a drastic change this year, even though it's more than Shirley going up 25 and Ayer going down 88 it's rare.
Well, yeah, that's obviously what I
You won't
picked up
see,
on.
yeah, you won't see that. If that trend continues, you would see that, and it would affect that probably in a year or two.
Okay.
Because of that 5-year. And they put that in so that's not a drastic change for each town. Now, we're having a drastic change anyway, not based on that, but that is why that is like that.
Okay, because that does come out to be 1.5%. That's a change which is not insignificant, but it's good to know that it does adjust. Let's just see. Because you did answer a number of the questions that I did kind of have. So the grant revenue, it looked like it dropped 5.4%.
So I think what you're looking at is our federal entitlement grants.
Okay.
So we don't really have, I want to make sure though,
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, so those are, yeah. By all means, jump in.
So if over the past several years, I presented this to FinCom, I think Kurt, we had this conversation a couple of years ago. I think we talked about Title 1, 2, 3, and 4 expenses. And I'll use myself and the time that I've started in Ayer Shirley versus where we are now. When I started, Titles 1, 2, 3, and 4 were funded by the federal government at approximately $800,000. So that was in 2018. So now, for comparison's sake, we're down to $300,000. So over that span of time, it's been a $500,000 cut. And that amount of money has been, if you look at that as a cumulative loss, it's pretty significant because it didn't all happen in 1 year. It was $100,000 each year. And so that number that's in there with the grant reduction of 5.4% reflects the change from last year to what is proposed or estimated going into next year for those grants.
I like the electric, that you're looking into that, and the benefit. You did kind of answer the question, which was $65,000 per month across the district. So if you could get that to drop, again, I'm not looking for exact numbers, but I forget what it said, like insignificant amount. Is there anything more that you can explain about looking into that? I mean, you said like you were looking into leasing. I mean, it's going to be a capital project, so is you're looking to debt service to
Possibly.
put that?
That's
Okay.
one of the possibilities. The other possibility is that we lease these and there's no out-of-pocket costs. So the amount of savings depends on the company that you're talking to. I'm smiling because they're so different,
Right.
right? And so when We are right now, I think we're probably leaning towards one company, and I won't name them, but they have done local projects for other districts, and they can provide canopies for covered parking, which would actually be at no cost, right? But we would lease these, so we would essentially be changing our electric company to this solar company. It would be a significant savings over National Grid. That's probably the easiest way to go. We can save significantly more money if we purchase the agreement, but then there's also significant more headache. We would have to have a servicing agreement with the company, but we don't have anyone that can service solar. There's going to be problems with it. Our roofs would have to be in good enough shape that we would be able to put them on without any capital project to repair the roofs. We have enough space. Each school has enough space where we could be essentially energy independent. We're never going to be off the grid because we're not allowed to, but we would essentially not have an electric bill unless there was some type of weather event where the sun wasn't shining for all 4 schools. The other part of that is that there are tax incentives, right? So we would get significant tax incentives to pay off some of those loans, or we could possibly use some of that to address any shortfall as one-time funds. Whether or not that's a good idea to do. Again, I think what we're doing, if we can do that to help, if it works, we could do that to help bring down the assessment. But essentially, it is kicking the can down the road for a budget issue the following year. But we could make it. There's a possibility where we could kind of do this in stages, and we have attempted this with the E&D funds in the past, and that did work. What we weren't expecting is our costs to increase as drastically as they have.
Sorry, but I think you may have just partially addressed what I was going to ask. Given there's different schools at different ages and whatnot, would the solar be something that would have to be implemented essentially all at once for the district? Could you just put it on the high school, again, thinking of ages of schools?
So all of that, I'm sorry to interrupt. All of that's an option. So I would love to be able to do this at all the schools that would have the most immediate savings. But it depends. The high school roof is the newest. It's probably in the best shape. So if we can only do one school, we would do that school. The other benefit of leasing is one of these companies will put into the lease the repairs to the school, so that we would be paying that over we'd actually be paying for the repairs over the term of that lease. It would still probably be significant savings than what we're paying right now. At $65,000 a month for 12 months, it is, that's probably $100,000 a year. So, all of those options are on the table. We're looking at all schools, if it can just be one, if it can be 2. The middle school is a little different. The middle school, it's not actually National Grid. It is through Devon's Energy. I might have that wrong. It's provided by Mass Development. So that's a whole different issue. None of these solar companies have worked with Mass Development before, so they're reaching out to find out if that is even a possibility.
Thanks.
Sure.
Where's the 65,000 come from?
For energy costs, that's
Right.
that is from the National Grid and Devon's utility bills.
Okay, I would assume I would see that reflected in this budget over the last couple of years, right? If I add up the Page Hilltop, well, there's 4 schools on here. If I add those up, I get 330,000, right? And 65,000 a month is almost 800,000. So I don't know what I'm missing.
You see?
You're on page
I'm on
8.
page 8.
So you're looking at the.
There's 4 electricity lines.
Yep.
You add those up and you get 330,000 from the previous years and 371,000 for 27. So if you can figure that out for me.
We will. What we can do is, I actually have the last 12 months of all the utility bills sitting on my desk. So what I will do, I don't know why that number is wrong. I can tell you that the number I'm telling you is the correct number. So I'll have to speak with Mr. Plunkett and see where that went wrong. But what I will do, and I already have this scanned, is I will send those utility bills to Robert so you can see those. That should reflect accurately, especially since we've been talking with utility companies for the past 2 months.
The only reason why I ask is I'm looking at the bottom line, right, which is, and I totally believe you, but I'm looking at
Yeah,
this
no.
for 26, it's 431,000, which is you're saying the electricity alone is double that, so
Double that,
there
yeah.
seems to be some sort of issue.
Mhm.
Right, so can we fix that?
Thank you for pointing that out.
And not to get into the weeds about, you know, electric projects and all that, it's more of a broad question leading to, you know, I don't want to make kind of this, we get through this year, and then next year we get hit with a 15%, and then the next year at the 17. So I'm just trying to figure out the general sense of where we're going. So if I'm sure we can all work together and figure this out this year, but it's going to be next year, it's going to hit the same issue. And again, do you have a sense for?
Well, I think it depends on where we end up. We're fairly certain that we can get that 11.9 down. But if we get that 11.9 down to 5 or 6, where the assessment has been, we're looking at significant cuts to the school district, and we're looking at that can has essentially been kicked
And
down
that's,
the road. Because what's going to happen inevitably is we're going to have student needs that are legalities that are going to come up that we have to pay for. And we will not have any funds available. There won't be any circuit breaker, there won't be any school choice funds available. There'll be nothing that we'll be able to tap into to take care of that, which will end up essentially in a shortfall, which will become a deficit, and that will go into the next fiscal year. And we do have our E&D is still fairly healthy, but at the rate that we've had to use it the last couple of years, it's not going to last. So we're looking to address this problem now, not kill all of our reserves. We're using 400,000 of capital stabilization reserves this year to address the shortfall that we're having from this year. You know, we did bring in a consultant, retired finance director, because part of the problem that we had is our projections were off. We knew it was going to be a tight year. We planned for it to be a tight year. We did that purposely to kind of help with the tax burden. We didn't realize it was going to be as tight as it was. So we brought him in to see why were our projections off, what do we need going forward so that doesn't happen again. So he's been a great help. He's actually going to be at the school committee meeting after this. I should have had him come here tonight. But essentially, yes, depending on how much we have to cut, I think it can be addressed so that we're not looking at double-digit assessments in the coming years, but it depends on how much we cut this year. To get it to I think, Robert, correct me, we were about 6% last year?
Yeah, I'd have to check.
Yeah, to get it to 5 or 6, it would probably be devastating. It would be devastating. The cuts to the district. We'd be increasing class sizes. We'd be probably cutting sections. But we don't know that we need to be there yet. We're confident that we can get that 11.9% down so that it's probably manageable. And it's, every change that we make, we will be giving Robert an update so that he can then update you.
Go ahead, Kurt.
Hi.
Robert's got a question. Oh, go ahead.
You want to go? A couple questions, Doctor. So the one big driver is the health insurance increase, okay, which is
Yes.
15% here. What do you think it was over the past years, the increase,
It
maybe?
was 12% last year. 12 and change. I'm not sure exactly. It was 12% last year. So we're talking 26% over 2 years.
Okay. And then previous years, you think it was less, though?
It was less, but it was. I think it was maybe. I can get that.
Okay.
It was less, but it still hurt. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just looking ahead as, maybe health insurance next year, maybe, since we've seen such big increases.
Yeah.
But that's, I'm
And the reason I think it's down from 20 to 25% to 14.4 is
That's
the elimination of the GLP-1s. So as of July 1, those won't be covered. And those costs have gone from 2 years ago, it was $50,000 to $200,000. Now it's well over $1 million.
DLP-1 was.
The weight loss.
Oh,
shot.
gotcha. Oh, yeah. Oh, as far as health insurance in general, yeah, we have that. Yeah. Okay, so that's. I mean, so the biggest things that I see are the health insurance. What other big expenses are we just?
Well, the largest expense is compensation.
Okay, so all right, so health insurance and comp and stuff like that, and then on the flip side is the obviously lost in title money and everything. So we've had big
The loss
bumps.
of Chapter 70 funds, so that's state money has gone down significantly, and federal funding has gone down. So costs are dramatically increasing, and then what we're getting from the state and the federal government has gone down drastically. And their expectation is that the taxpayers of Aaron Shirley come up with that.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was just trying to summarize the sort
I
of the
think
big
the perfect
factors.
storm term has been used often. I think you might have been the first one to use that with us.
Brought it up in November.
TM.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
I appreciate that the state says that the town of Ayer can handle this.
Isn't it nice?
I'm going to take that part as a compliment. I would also invite them to come here and actually see things on a ground level. Robert, you had a question?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Dr. Rinder, thank you. I appreciate at least us getting from 18.8 to 11.9. Now we just have to go a little bit further. Madam Chair, I just wanted to offer just a couple of observations, and I know that this is a process, and this is the preliminary part of it.
We did lose a week.
Pardon?
We did lose a week. So
Yeah.
we're a week out from where we typically are because of the governor took about an extra week to get us our numbers. So this is typically massaged about another week
Right.
more.
Yeah. So, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but this is my 15th budget since regionalization. In fact, I think I was the only person around this table when regionalization happened. And the range, you are correct that the assessment, we've always made it work. And I think the highest up to this, and I know this isn't the final number, was around 9% one year. There was a spike. When I come to see you in November, when I brought the perfect storm, and I was hoping that we would be, I mean, I didn't create the storm, but in that the town, so obviously, I know you know this, that the 11.9% is a non-viable, non-star, and that's for Ayer. Surely, as you know, and that's perhaps one of the structural issues with the regional agreement, is we always end up even lower than what Shirley would be. But in looking, the implications, just because we're talking about the 11.9, and that will change, what that means for Ayer. So, as you know, and we discussed this back in November, our target to raise the municipal budget was by 5%. That'd be $1 million off over FY26. And part of that reason is over the last 10 years, the average budget in Ayer has been increasing by 5.2%. It varies. Last year it was 5.9. But over the long term, $1 million every year, the municipal budget, for the sake of argument, has gone up almost $10 million in 10 years. It's not sustainable, right, for the taxpayer who's footing the bill and the capacity. And this is before this perfect storm rolls around. And so we looked at a target for 5%. That number comes up largely because we do have the limitations of Proposition 2.5, right? And looking at the ability to pay. So in our modeling, we assumed a 5% for the town and a 5% for the district. I mean, we don't have authority on that, but for planning purposes. And so why the 11.9% is not viable or sustainable? We've already begun to reduce the municipal budget starting in November. And departments have prepared a scenario that we're hoping not to use, taking into account a more catastrophic. But at 11.9%, conservatively, we'd have to reduce the town of Ayer's budget by another $1 million, which would be personnel. And as you're saying, and I don't take it lightly, you said to me, you're looking at $1 million to $2 million. The way I see it is there are two issues and a big challenge is time. So the two issues is there's a structural issue, that there is a structural imbalance that goes all the way back, and you can identify it as Shirley's ability to pay, state aid, and affordability. There's a structural problem. So obviously a structural solution, I've heard people say, well, we need an override. Well, an override is only as good as it can pass. Right. The last override for school-related matters in Ayer that passed, and it was a much small one, was in 1993, and I can't speak for Shirley. But I bring that up because I hear, oh, we have to have an override, and and I know we've talked about this, it's easier said than done. So there's a structural problem in all of this, and I think as Selectman Tavares said, we can all agree, this is a multi-year issue. And I know you have a much more optimistic view. I think we're in year 1 of a 5-year storm. You're hoping we're in year 3
I
of
think
a
we're
5
in year
year
3. I do.
Right.
I think we're in
So the issue is the health insurance is broken, right? And you and I know that if they didn't get rid of the GLP, the health insurance would be 20%, because 6%, according to Meyer, was that. We were 15% last year. We're going to be 15% this year. So to think that health insurance is going to improve in a year based on the federal and state situation, right? The addition is the federal government and the state government are completely broken, as you highlighted. And if anybody thinks that either of those have any money, so and we have to look at this at the long term. So there's a structural issue and there's a sustainability issue. I mean, this is not sustainable for any of us. You, us, Shirley, and across, and there's no real help on the way. As you said, the federal government, nothing, the state government, nothing. So final point, my other concern is an issue of timing. So as you know, you have 45 days from the first town meeting to submit a certified budget for our communities to consider. That's approximately around March 17th. Do you feel that, I mean, if cuts of that magnitude and we have to make cuts, that gives us like a month to do that. Have you given any thought to that?
Yes. I mean, if we have to make cuts, which we believe we're going to have to make some, but depending on what cuts need to be made, we have already had those discussions with buildings. What would have to be cut.
Yeah. So my final point, and Madam Chair, thank you, and I appreciate the time, and it's a problem for us to solve with Shirley in a very rapid time to get the short term for this year. But then the long term is going to require an extreme effort and potentially some structural issues that are out of even our hands. I think that the final point on that front is, just from my chair as the town manager, I've shared this with you, to quantify this from the Ayer side. Ideally, it would be 5%, but I know the challenge there is Shirley's would be higher at 5%. And I don't know if they can even do 5%. I'm not going to speak for Shirley. 6 to 7% for Ayer, we have to really tighten it. And then after 7, it as I've shared with you, we're getting in to some tough territory. So, Madam Chair, I just wanted to quantify. I know things are going to change. We'll keep things updated, but it's very real. It's very tight, and it's not a 1-year blip, right?
It's not. So, I mean, we will, we're going to continue working this. Like I said, we had about a week less because of when the governor released the budget. We're expecting on the 21st and the 28th. So, you know, I think we'll probably we're presenting in Shirley next week. My guess is these numbers will be different by then. We will obviously share that with you, but we are all of my job right now, and most of, if not all of Mr. Cleary's and Mr. Plunkett's is to try to make this doable for both towns. So we are working around the clock to try to do that. What we want is to make no cuts at all. That's what we want to come up with a solution. So we are level service, and we're providing the services that we are providing this year to all of our students. If that is not a possibility, we'll be very strategic with the cuts that we have to make. But in order to do that, we know that there's going to have to be some type of intervention from the outside, meaning savings in utilities, grants, competitive grants. I mean, we're going to do that. One of the reasons we're presenting this tonight, this is an actual number of what we need. We've done that in the past. This is the number that we actually need, and then we find other ways to help that get down. We're going to do that, but we wanted to show the reality of this, how we're typically able to drop that number rather significantly. It's probably not going to be as significant, but as you saw, the 18, I thought it was 17, but maybe it was 18. 18.5,
18.8.
18.8. It's down to 11.9. So we'll give us some time, and we'll see what we can get that to.
Madam Chair, thank you.
You mentioned also, you know, the older buildings and whatnot. That's going to be a continued problem. So, I mean, not trying to be sarcastic, but do we need to all go to Home Depot and get plastic wrap for the windows? I mean, what are we doing is basically what I'm asking, because that's going to be continued a problem. So, you know, how are we going to help alleviate that? So that'll help bring down these other costs, these utility costs and everything.
Well, one of the best ways to do that would be a new building project. Now, it would be a cost to the towns, but there would be significant savings in utilities and probably personnel if we regionalize the elementary school. Now, that is not a decision that I get to make. That would be school committee and the voters to some degree. Mass development would have a big say in that. That is an option that they would absolutely make us look at. Looking at that option in the feasibility study would absolutely have to happen, just because of the size of the schools, combining the two elementary schools. It would be a large elementary school, but it wouldn't be larger than some that surrounding towns have. There would be significant savings there. We have a statement of interest for a new building project that is ready to be submitted. We are holding off. We held off last year. It looks like that Mass Development has provided some funding for a mini feasibility study. We feel with that getting done, our statement of interest will be much stronger. So we held off there. I know where Roberts and I and Mr. Sawyer and I believe Howard is part of that.
Yeah.
Just because they're part of the feasibility study, it would be separate projects. So that will happen relatively soon, and we're ready to submit a statement of interest this year. We could submit actually today. We had it ready to go to submit last year. That would be the best way to address it. Other than that, we are assessing and repairing as needed. That's essentially what happened. We had a pipe burst this weekend at Page Top.
And then I don't think anybody's asked this. Forgive me if someone did and I'm repeating. Were any of these positions grant and now they're part of the budget?
We have had positions in the past that were grant funded that had turned permanent, but nothing as of late, even last year.
So nothing new, they've already been there. Okay.
Yeah, no, we had new positions. Typically, most of our new positions are grant funded, so it's not part of the general fund. But we have had new positions as far as support staff. We've had many students move in that are in special education, that are coming in requiring a paraprofessional. We don't have a choice.
Right.
If a student is coming from another town with that in their IEP, we have to provide that service. That's a cost of about $40,000. We have no control over. over the past 3 years, that's at least 20. I can get you an exact number, but I want to say we've added maybe 20 paraprofessionals because of the needs of some of our students in special education. So that's a significant increase in cost, and many of those are moving.
Anybody else have any questions?
We are happy to be able to bring everybody's mood up to this evening.
All right, well,
But we will keep in touch, and
yeah,
hopefully
if you
before-
could bring it down a lot, that'd be great.
we're gonna do our best.
Like a lot.
That would work.
So, but,
We'll have to do that paychecks.
so, all right, well, thank you. Keep
Thank
us
you.
posted. And
Absolutely.
Robert will
We appreciate you
present
partnering
it.
with us. We do feel like this is a good partnership. We're going to do our best to get it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Kurt, I'll invite you to adjourn your committee.
So I move that the finance committee, presentation will adjourn.
I will second your motion. Move your motion.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Finance committee is now adjourned.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. It was a pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's,
A little bit behind.
that one. There it is. Okay. All right. Let me settle down here. Next up, we have a public hearing. Chris.
Do we have the? I appreciate it. Okay, I would like to open a public hearing, the Ayer Select Board regarding out-of-town sewer service connection public hearing. The Ayer Select Board will be conducting a public hearing on Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. Ayer Town Hall, 1 Main Street, Ayer, Mass, regarding an application by Greg Ganley, Groton, Mass, to connect to the town of Ayer's sewer system for property located at 434 Old Ayer Road, Groton, Mass. The Select Board, in their legal capacity as the town's water and sewer commissioners, will hear testimony regarding this request and will make recommendations pursuant to Town of Ayer Regulations, Chapter 435, Section 2.2. If recommended by the Select Board, the application will be placed on the April 27, 2026 Annual Town Meeting warrant. Zoom meeting ID is 978-772-8220, and call-in number is 929-205-6099. For more information, please contact ATM at ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 149.
What? Okay. All right. All right, do we have, who? Come on now.
Hey, Greg.
Oh, hey,
Dan.
nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you in person.
Yeah, absolutely. All
All
right.
right. What's
Yeah,
going on?
Why don't you explain what's your application, and then
Sure.
I can jump in from the
All right,
public works perspective. Yeah.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm here with my wife, Heather. We live over in Groton on Pacer Way. We basically own a property at the end of Pacer Way. It's 434 Old Ayer Road. My family and I, we've actually lived in the Groton Ayer community for over the last 22 years, and our intent in this request is try to remain here while planning responsibly for the next stages of our lives. I'm submitting this request to pursue an out-of-town municipal sewer connection to support potentially a construction of a single-family home on this property at 434 Old Ayer Road. The property lies entirely in Groton, but it's located directly next to the Ayer Town line. The property has a private well, and it has its own curb cut, and it's directly across from the Autumn Ridge connection, which has SOAR municipal from Ayer connecting it. So the thought is to meet with Ayer and apply for this to see if we can try to make this current lot buildable. At present, it is not. And so before I talk with the town of Groton, I wanted to talk with the town of Ayer and pursue perhaps a SOAR connection, just to make the overall lot more amenable to potentially buildable. At this time, I haven't really sought any building permits or anything. I'm again just bringing this forward to just try this aspect of looking at the lot. So I see you have the diagram up. I could walk through that if folks would like.
Sure.
Okay. As you can see, you have Pace Away on the right-hand side, and then that has Old Air Road at the base. And the structure already has an existing 10 by 10 building. The lot used to be an AT&T property, and so I purchased it off of AT&T. It was part of the long-distance telephone system, and so the building is there today, and it has existing electrical, and I have a water well in there as well. So the idea is that if we were to build a house on the lot, potentially we could have a SOAR line that would go out to the corner of the lot and potentially tap into the existing SOAR line that is there. I paced it out. It's roughly 60 feet from the SOAR cap to the corner, to the actual edge of the property. And on the next diagram, it actually shows, I think there's one more. Or maybe it's not in there. Oh yeah, that's this one. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, this particular one I was sharing with the DPW department potential options to connect to the SOAR line because it's my understanding that the road was recently paved, so it's a beautiful road at this point, and if we could avoid cutting into that would be amazing. And so that's potentially, turns out the neighbor's house, there is a white pipe marker with an existing SOAR line already like under the fresh road. So that could potentially be an option A, that if we could somehow work the side of the road to connect into the SOAR, therefore we wouldn't have to cut the road at all. Option B would be perhaps to try to minimize the amount of cutting on the road, and that would be a direct perpendicular cut, which would be option B. And then option C, I think you mentioned you were talking about potentially extending the SOAR main line itself, and then do a perpendicular cut closer to the corner of the lot. I guess any questions?
Yeah. So I have included a memo from Public Works. So Greg's been working with myself, Matt Hernan, and Kimberly Abraham from my office. And so really, when you look at the application, there's a few sign-offs. There's water and sewer availability, review by the town engineer, public hearing, and then select board approval before we're to go to town meeting. So water and sewer availability, it's a single-family home, 3-bedroom house. It's really insignificant in the grand scheme of our water capacity, our sewer capacity. So that we do not have an issue with. Some things I brought up in the memo are potentially our billing, because it is out of town, and we came across this with a property in Littleton. We technically would need an intermunicipal agreement with Groton, so this would be a step that would have to happen in order. So say there were unpaid bills and we need to collect on the property. We've done liens in the past, but we can't do that in another town. So you need to have that coverage. And then just, I think Greg was kind of talking about the proposed connection, which really should be between him and DPW, which is really the town engineer approval sign off, in my opinion. And what we, if we were to do an extension of a sewer line and a connection and doing it the right way that we normally would, we would extend the main that we have and then tie in at the property line with a new manhole. So, working with my staff, that's what we would recommend. And really, I had a sketch in here. I think it's the next plan down, Carly, a GIS plan map put together. Really, you can see, so the parcel, it's, across the Ayer Groton town line, and it's down the street a little bit. So, so ideally, you would extend that main to that property and then tie in that way, rather than cutting across potentially another property or diagonally across a road. Now, one thing I mentioned in the memo that comes with that, and this is what the select board really has to consider potentially town meeting, if we start extending into Groton, is there
necessarily setting a precedence. What if some more people might want to start tying in? And one other thing we as Public Works would want to see is an engineered plan, which I relayed to Greg that as well. Just of, you know, is it going to be low pressure sewer? Are we talking about gravity? You know, exact dimensions on a plan, not just like a sketch with some dimensions that look okay. But yeah, and yeah, Greg did mention that we recently paved Groton Road, so there'd be requirements there. So Groton obviously needs to be approached, mentioned. We're in their roadway. The town of Ayer would need an intermunicipal agreement with them for the sewer there on that property to be able to collect liens. And I think those are all the main points I had from my memo. So I think really, at this point, this is the public hearing portion of it. So there's the select board, you know, I think the question is the select board, you know, on board in favor of moving this to town meeting? Does the select board want Greg to work with the DPW in Groton more and kind of push the hearing until there's more info from that, or and continue with the work that we're doing now? Those are kind of the two questions I think we gotta discuss.
First of all, no water, right? It's just sewer. We're just talking sewer, okay? I just want to make sure that's clear. I mean, I think that you're going to have more information anyways for town meeting. Would you think that you would even be ready for April 27th town meeting, or would you be thinking of fall? Because it sounds to me like there's a lot to do, and I would think that it would be more fall town meeting. That's how I'm feeling it right at the moment.
I was shooting for April. I've actually talked with the local company involved for an engineering plan, and those folks said they could come up with a plan within a week. It's fairly quickly. Yeah. So I was shooting for April.
I think there's still, you know, it depends with Groton too and dealing with them and our councils working together on an IMA. That still may be an outstanding item, which doesn't necessarily break the bank, but I think getting a plan together that's acceptable is probably doable. But the IMA with Groton, I think that might lag.
Don't we already have, well,
It's
no, it's a different one. Yeah. So that brings the question, if this went ahead and you create that IMA and then other people came forward wanting to connect, there would already be that IMA, so we wouldn't have to worry about that part. Or would it have to be an IMA with each individual person that came forward?
Would want council's opinion, but I think you'd probably want it to do each individual property, just because each individual request is.
Okay, because that would be something that could be potentially asked at town meeting too, since it was discussed here. So that kind of answers that question.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, from DPW's perspective, as far as the engineering of it, we can, you know, that's something that can be done and figured out. The water and sewer availability, it's only one, but yeah, it's a single family house, not significant. So, you know, those things aren't tough. It's working with Groton, getting through town meeting. Those are the bigger challenges, I believe.
My first question without an engineered plan is, why is septic not feasible?
At this point, I'd prefer sewage just in general. You think about like from environmentally notions, you know, sewage would flow to a treatment facility, whereas septic gets treated on the site. And I'm not an engineer in that regard, so I'm not really sure. But we could pursue the septic, but my first thought was why not start with sewer to begin with.
Okay. So it's not a hardship, it's just
exactly
preference. Yeah. Okay. And is that lot buildable? Is there an A&R? I mean, is there?
No. Yeah, so no, presently it's not. Groton has 2 acre zoning, and so it's presently not. So my thought was to first just feel out the sewer connection notion, and then I was going to engage with an attorney on the Groton side and start down that road.
Yeah, because if you do an engineered plan and, you know, I assume that would be soil testing, Dan, like that would that be part of, if they did an engineered plan, to see if that's even feasible, you know?
If they were going septic.
If they're going septic.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out, like we said, is there a hardship? And if they do this plan and they find out, yeah, the soils aren't, you know, appropriate, then you have to go with sewer. I kind of echo what Janice was saying. It just seems like there's a lot of questions right now. I understand you coming, no fault in that, but there's a lot of kind of unknowns right now. That's my thought.
So, can we do this? Robert, Carly, and of course, if Chris agrees, can we recess this public hearing? Have them come back when they've got more info, if they want to be on the April 27th fall town meeting?
Yep, Madam Chair, we could just continue the hearing. We would
That's the
just,
word I was looking for.
yeah, need to pick a time and date certain. So maybe next meeting might be a little quick, maybe the first meeting in March. We have to
Yeah, and
make
if you have
sure
to,
we have dates.
yeah, we just have to have a date, and if we had to continue it again.
Okay, so, right, so even if we pick the first in March, if they don't have enough, we would maybe recess it again?
Yep.
So do we want to pick that first date, or would we want to pick the second date?
Let me see.
I'm asking, and then Danny has a question. Yes?
I think so one question I would have is, based on you said that it's 2 acre zoning, and that lot doesn't meet that.
Correct.
So you would need to get a variance through Groton ZBA. I think that would probably be the first step you might want to do, because you'd have to go through the process of proving hardship and all of that. And just initially, it's probably going to be a tough initial sell to the ZBA. So I think for the town, before the town wants to go into the whole process of town meeting, I think that needs to be one of the first steps that needs to be done.
Yeah, I thought about it. It's kind of a chicken and an egg thing, right? Because Groton might say, well, maybe talk with Ayer about the sewer. Because my thought was because the lot's small, and if you put a septic system in, then it even makes the lot even smaller. So I was thinking maybe if I went in with sewer, makes the lot kind of more amenable to. So, but to your point, I could definitely look at see it both ways. Yeah.
Right, so what about March 17th, which is our second meeting in March, and that should give you guys enough time to figure out which way you're going.
Sounds good. That works.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not a no, it's just, I just need to.
Yeah,
know
I just
more.
think there's needs to be more, because you would get asked it at town meeting anyway, so you might as well get asked it now, so. Okay, then I'm gonna make a motion that this public hearing be recessed until March 17th at 6:15 p.m.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And chair says aye. We'll see you on March 17th.
Just one quick follow-up. So the goal there is to bring this engineered plan to the meeting at that time?
Whatever he says you need to have. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Just
So,
Yeah, let's connect down.
Yeah, all right.
yeah, we'll kind of leave that, he'll just guide you and everything.
Thanks so much. I appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Oh, no.
No? Oh, sorry, I already did that. Nope.
Continued.
Continued it. Woo. I know.
I was already thrown off in the beginning, so.
Okay, so we're continued until March 17th, 6:15 p.m. All righty. Okay, Dan, you have a change order.
Yeah, so the sewer system rehab project we've been doing on Main Street, which the lining is substantially complete. There's one segment left. We'd like to, when we're doing that segment of lining, we'll be shutting down our force main from Central Avenue, so it's an opportunity to inspect that pipe. And so we've put together a change order to do that, as well as increasing our time extension as well because of the winter shutdown to be able to do, we have 2 excavation repairs in the spring. So that's what this change order is for. It's $9,500 for signature by the chair. Any questions?
I have none.
Then I'll make a motion to approve change order number 2 for the fiscal year 26 sewer system rehabilitation project in the amount of $9,500 and to extend the contract time for substantial completion by 100 days.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. All right, approved.
That's it tonight. Thank you. Where's Maverick?
I know.
Bring him back.
The request he be at all.
He was so cute. I thought it was funny because at one point his mouth was partly on the microphone. I'm like, oh my God, that would be, can you imagine if he had decided to bark right then and there? All right, Robert, you're up next.
Madam Chair, members of the board, good evening. You have the town warrants that have been approved since the select board last met in your packet. In terms of the administrative update, just a couple of quick things. As the board is aware, last Wednesday, the DPW on January 28th had a public information session on the West Main Street Bridge. I thought that it was well attended online and in person, given the temperature out there. And we'll get that presentation if we haven't already out there. But I think that the DPW has a good plan and a good outreach plan for this important project, which should be starting in March, right?
That's the plan.
All right.
Weather turn.
And then I also just want to thank the Department of Public Works, the Fire Department, the Police Department, as always, for all of their efforts in the last big storm that we had since we met, and their ongoing efforts. Everybody does an excellent job, so it's most appreciated on that front. The Senior Center Building Committee would like to come, not the full committee, but the chair and the vice chair, just to give a brief update to the board on February 17th as to where they are in the project. There's a lot of work going on, and they want to give an update on that, just brief, at the next meeting if possible. And related to that, the IT manager, John Maxwell, myself, and Katie Petrassi are submitting a IT grant on Thursday for about $150,000 for all of the IT needs of the main room of the building. So hopefully that will be successful, and that would help offset on that front. Really, the whole focus is on the budget, and I just have two brief updates in the interest of time related to that, and then if there are any questions from the board. So I just have a couple of quick slides keeping with the budget update on the status of draft one and the major budget drivers. So the first slide, so this is showing that the budget drivers, this is as of today, that evolution. So December 10th, in the middle is January 14th, and then February 3rd, where we are today. So some good news and some concerning news. The good news is on the health insurance front. During the storm, as mentioned, Maya announced that there will be a cap at 14.4% on the insurance. It can't go any higher than that when we get our final rate. So that was significant in reducing the health insurance increases of $391,000 as opposed to $653,000. So that's favorable. We'll get the final, if the official rate's actually the end of this month, which they've also confirmed. And as mentioned, they were able to shave off 6 percentage points down from 20% by not covering the discretionary use of the GLP drugs as of July 1st. The concern is that worked, for this year. The issue, we take it 1 year at a time. So that was favorable. The debt service continues to go down. A special thanks to Barbara, the finance manager, and departments on that. We started actually before December 10th at about $285,000, and we're at about $84,000 through a lot of work there. The contract negotiations, the clerical contract is on target to conclude for February 14th. So we'll have numbers there. As same with the 3 non-union personnel service contracts. I would like to, if all goes, if everything's teed up, if the board would consider a brief executive session on the 17th for the purpose of ratifying those if they are completed. The fixed costs staying stable, and as I learned, unlike the schools, to our facilities department credit on the energy in fuel front, which is a piece of that, doing some great job. Now the two concerning pieces, obviously, and I won't belabor it, but the school assessment, we have been assuming a 5% placeholder, keeping that in line with the omnibus goal at 11.9. That would be over a $1.8 million increase for us to the budget. And the other one, which we'll get some more information on, the Neshoba Valley Technical High School school assessment. Originally, Dr. Pigeon was projecting or estimating about a $100,000 increase. It looks like it's going to be about $250,000 because of some things with the state formula and so forth. There's actually an emergency meeting of the school committee tonight to further drill down and understand this, because they have to release their number actually this Thursday on February 5th. So that would be the maximum. We're hoping that would come down. So the drivers, unfortunately, with the school sitting at 11.9, would be just under a $3 million increase. Next slide. So just where we are is February 3rd. So at the top is the FY26. That's the omnibus budget last year. Our target, and as the board is aware and appreciate the board's support, we put this whole strategy together back in November to plan ahead. The 5% target. So there's on January 16th, we were at 5.8%. So we were 162,000 over target. Draft 1, just with the switch on the health insurance from the 25% to the 15%, is significant. We're now sitting at 4.6%, or about $83,000 under target. However, there are 3 outstanding omnibus budget drivers: the clerical contract, the non-union personnel, and the non-union COLA. Those, the first 2 are under negotiations. That's an estimated impact. And on the COLA, we'll be coming on February 17th to discuss the recommendation based on the financial policies, and you'll have all that info. Assuming that would total 110. So if you added that in, we would draft 1, and that would be at just over 21 million, or at 4.7%, or $26,000 over target. And there's some additional adjustments, so that will come down. So on the omnibus side, and I appreciate all of the work of the departments, and especially the finance manager, and really drilling down on this. We're going to be in good shape on the omnibus side to get that number to be below 5% and to continue to work to keep that sustainable. Last slide, please. So in preparation for tonight, though, what the issue is, so as you can see in the red is the draft 1, and then highlighted in the blue, which is the good news, we're sitting at about 4.6%. Then if we add those omnibus drivers, those 3 that we know there'll be something there, but just as estimate, we're still at 4.7%, or just about 26,000 over target. Now the ASRSD assessment at 5%, that would give them approximately $765,000 more than last year. That was our proposed target. Where they came in tonight, and I know it's moving, and the superintendent said it will come down, but using that information, that'd be a $1.8 million increase. And their assessment, as I mentioned when the superintendent was here, they're about 6.9% over our target of 5%. And looking at this, if that were to hold, we would need to reduce the omnibus budget by at least another $1 million, which would definitely move the omnibus budget into the realm of some service impacts and personnel, which we're not there yet, and we have a lot of work to do. But I just wanted to give a snapshot on that. And the other pieces we heard tonight, and the board knows, Shirley is a variable in it, because Shirley's ability to pay based on the agreement, they're always higher than we are. So there's still a lot of work to do. My frustration, if I may, to the board is starting with your support right in the beginning of November. We've been really proactive on that, and I expressed to the superintendent it would be ideal to be in a position now with a more defined number, because 11.9 is not going to work. 5 would be the ideal. That would mean Shirley's would be higher. 6 to 7, we all can work our magic, but as you get into that 7 and so forth, it'll push us back into that point. So we will keep you updated. I think the next benchmarks is Thursday. We'll get the Neshoba Valley Tech assessment. The good news is on the health insurance front helps, and we have a lot of work to still do with the schools in Shirley. And I'm just concerned too, because March 17th, it's got to come together, because it has to be certified to come down here. Last thing back on the packet, are there any questions on the budget? I have just one last slide on the free cash. I know it's sort of...
In the packet?
Yeah, yeah. So on the packet, just briefly in the interest of time, I did meet with the Finance Committee, Barbara and I, last Thursday. And usually around this time of year, we start the discussion with the board and the FinCom about the recommended uses for free cash. And I do have a slide in the packet.
Oh, it's not. We're just gonna catch up, sorry. It's on mine.
I know, I'm watching you, and I'm like.
So as we just get that up, as the board is aware of it for the public's benefit, so these is to start the discussion on the recommended uses of free cash. Ultimately, the select board will approve warrant articles that will encapsulate the uses of that free cash. Free cash is can be used for any lawful purpose subject to town meeting approval. Historically, the town has been building up its reserves for preparing for different things.
I'm telling you.
I think it's because you
on
got
my
it in
screen.
presentation mode.
Okay.
So if you take it out of presentation mode, you ought to be able to toggle back to the PDF.
Look at you. Wow.
Maybe.
Sounded good.
We're trying to get it on the screen for the.
There we go.
There we go.
All right.
Hey.
So this is just Barbara and I's first pass at it from our perspective. It's a conversation. There are many options. So just in a nutshell, as the board is aware, we have just over 2.9 million in certified free cash. This is the second highest year. Last year was 3.2. We anticipate, though we don't have a crystal ball, the average for the town, the average is usually about 1.3 to 1.7 in their average, so it's higher. What we're proposing is a small amount, $20,000, to the compensated balance fund that was created by town meeting in 2020. That's a fund that we can use for retirement, separation from service. We can fund out any of the lawful things that are owed to employees. The benefit of that is it doesn't hit the departmental budgets. The current balance is about $62,000. The DOR benchmark on that is about $50,000 to $60,000 as a balance, but we're anticipating there are going to be some significant retirements in the next couple years that we just want to keep that fund, to be able to effectively absorb those. The forward funding of the pension, which we've been doing for the last several years, at $300,000 at considerable savings. So if you look in the draft budget, the pension assessment is about 6% this year. If we weren't forward funding the pension, it would probably be, probably double that. So there are significant savings by doing that. The OPEB, as the board knows, per the financial policies, we put a total of $300,000 each year. The meals tax makes up $175,000 of that, and $125,000 from free cash. Then on UDAG and capital, and there's some room here. As the board knows, the board authorized $1 million for the senior center project from UDAG. And as we presented some time ago, one payment option on the low side would be at $200,000 a year. It'd take 5 years to pay it off, or higher. Given the higher than average sort of free cash, would We're proposing to pay back 500,000 of that. Again, something to think about. These numbers, obviously there's a lot of options. On capital stabilization, the balance right now is 6.1 million. That's after the 2 million that town meeting authorized for the senior center. We're proposing again, here there's an opportunity, you could put up to $1 million towards that, as opposed to, again, on the low side was about 200,000 a year or 500,000 a year. There's an opportunity there based on the free cash to accelerate that. Stabilization, the balance is about 5.4 million. These balances are as of December. Proposing to put 620,680. And then one last slide, and through the chair, if there's an objection, Barbara could just come up to the table. The last thing is, in looking at this, Barbara has identified an opportunity in which there could be some budget savings as well as some removal from the tax impact, and that's to pay down 3 band projects. If with 346,830, next slide, and this is the last one. Okay, yep. So there were 3 projects that Barbara identified: the police department, furniture, DPW sidewalk, tractor, snow blower, and road paving. There's the borrowed term, there's the principal, the interest, and the total. And she has identified that by paying down these 3 projects with the 346,830, it would reduce the debt service budget, resulting in that amount not hitting the tax rate. And she's estimated we would also save approximately 61,830 in interest. If the board were to support this of course would be an article at town meeting, would be subject to town meeting approval, but I think it's a very creative opportunity to maximize savings. So Weldon, did you want to add anything on that?
No, just that we're saving the interest, but we're also removing those principal payments from the omnibus budget by doing this. And these are one-time purchases, so it is something that is seen as positive in the DOR's eyes and Standard and S&P's eyes when doing our rating versus having it be a recurring item.
So I know that it's late. I appreciate the time. There's a lot to think about. The FinCom is going to think about it as well, and we'll bring it back up again as we get, closer to the process as to what on free cash. To you.
I got nothing. Sounds so far like we have a nice plan going.
Thank you. And unless there's any questions from the board on any matters, I appreciate the time, and that concludes my report.
There's no new business or select board member questions. Did you have anything that popped up?
No, I just want to echo what Robert said about, that last big snowstorm, and really appreciating the DPW and the first responders and the amazing work that you do. I hear it from so many different people driving through the different surrounding towns, coming into Ayer. It's like night and day. I know how difficult that is, so thank you for all your hard work.
Yes, Pauline.
Very briefly, and I will not take any time. I'm going to follow up with you, Robert, on a couple of questions regarding free cash and your other presentations tonight about budgeting.
Sure.
But I want to echo what Chris just said. We have the best DPW in the area, and I can't wait to see all that snow gone in the morning.
That's great.
All right, you all have a great night. Thank you so much.
You too. All right. Well, okay, so I know you weren't here, but I didn't see anything wrong in the January 20th. Did you see any spelling errors or anything?
I didn't see anything that was glaring. Nope.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from January 20th, 2026.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. The meeting minutes are approved.
And Madam Chair?
Yes.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
The chair says aye. Good night, everybody.